Welcome to week 7 of Explore the Bible. Looking forward today to going through this passage in Luke chapter 20, a parable that Jesus tells. It's been a rough little bit here for Jesus as we get into this passage. He's having one confrontation with another after another with the Pharisees. I mean, over and over the Pharisees are coming after him and his confrontation with them, where he is telling them things and they're not liking it and they're fighting against what he has to say. And then he tells this parable that kind of sets in stone what's really going on and lays it out for them how he sees God dealing with them. So let's look at this. He says, "Now he began to tell the people this parable. A man planted a vineyard, leased it to tenant farmers, and they went away for a long time. At harvest time he sent a servant to the farmers so that they might give him some fruit from the vineyard. But the farmers beat him and sent him away empty-handed. He sent yet another servant, but they beat that one too, treated him shamefully, sent him away empty-handed. And he sent yet a third, but they wounded this one too and threw him out." Okay, he tells this parable about this vineyard, and it's pretty clear as he's telling this who's who. We see the man, this is God, and the vineyard is God's people, right? And then the tenant farmers, those are the Pharisees, the Jewish leadership. Right, so he's talking about how these servants come to the farmers. We might see these as prophets that come, right? And instead of being honored and being treated respectfully as they should, they're beaten up, right, and sent away with nothing. And it happens over and over again. And Jesus is laying this out pretty clearly about what's going on here, and we'll see this as we get on into this, that they all understand exactly what he's saying, exactly what he's talking about. So he says this, "Then the owner of the vineyard said, 'What should I do? I will send my beloved son. Perhaps they will respect him.' But when the tenant farmers saw him, they discussed it among themselves and said, 'This is the heir. Let's kill him so that the inheritance will be ours.' So they threw him out of the vineyard and killed him. What will the owner of the vineyard do to them?" Okay, here's your story, right? They've killed each of the servants, or they beat each of the servants up, haven't given back what they're supposed to give back. And so then the owner says, "Well, I think I'll just send my son. I mean, surely they'll respect my son when I send him." Now, clearly we know who this is in the story, right? Here's Jesus. When they see him, he says the farmers thought, "Well, I don't know, I'll tell you what." They're kind of thinking among themselves, talking, right, having a discussion. It says, "Well, if we kill this guy, the son, then we get it." Which is some really flawed thinking, isn't it? To think, if we kill off the son, then the owner will just give us the land. He'll be so appreciative. I don't know how they figured out that they were going to be the ones to get it. But the truth is that when you get in the midst of this deep, dark rebellion and sin, what seems logical to you is not logical at all, right? And that's just what happened, right? They get off thinking, well, this is the way to do it. This is what we ought to do. Doesn't make any sense, right? They threw him out of the vineyard and they killed him. You notice that the others they beat up and sent home with nothing, but the son they killed. What will the owner of the vineyard do to them? That's Jesus' question. What's going to happen to them? And then he answers that question. He will come and kill those farmers and give the vineyard to others. Well, of course that's what he's going to do. They thought, we'll kill the son, he'll give us the vineyard. Jesus says, no. He's going to come and kill the tenant farmers and give the vineyard to somebody else. That's what's going to happen. They're not going to get it. They killed the son. They haven't done anything he wanted. They're going to die, and then somebody else is going to get it. And that makes sense, doesn't it? But look at this. But when they heard this, they said, "That must never happen." They knew exactly what Jesus was saying. They knew the meaning of this. As he's telling this parable, they get it. The Pharisees get it. They know exactly what he's talking about. So when they hear this, they're like, well, that can't happen. Even if maybe they didn't believe Jesus was the Son of God, they knew that's what he was saying, right? Because he'd called himself the Son of God, the Son of Man. They knew he was setting himself up that way. And that can't happen. But he looked at them and he said, "What is the meaning of this scripture? The stone that the builders rejected has become the cornerstone." He says, you got this passage that you all believe is about the Messiah. They believed it to be about the Messiah. They didn't believe it to be about Jesus, but they certainly believed it to be about the Messiah. And he says, if this is not what happens, then what does this passage mean? That the stone the builders rejected, who are the builders, right? The Pharisees, the leaders of Israel. What does it mean that the stone that they've rejected becomes the cornerstone of the kingdom, the cornerstone of the building of God, the house of God? Unless this story accurately reflects what happens, that he takes those people that had rejected, and he kills them, and he gives the vineyard to someone else. He gives it over. He takes it away from them. What else does this mean? And of course, Jesus is this stone, right, who is being rejected by the builders, who is the cornerstone. That's who Jesus is. Everyone who falls on that stone will be broken to pieces, but on whomever it falls, it will shatter him. Then the scribes and the chief priests looked for a way to get their hands on him that very hour, because they knew he had told this parable against them, but they feared the people. They knew it was about them. They knew it. They didn't have any doubts. There was no question in their mind. They all the way through. That's why when they get to this point, they're like, well, that can't happen, right? They knew this was about them. They knew who the man was, who the tenant farmers were, what the vineyard was, the servants that came, and the son. They knew all that. They identified all of those pieces. Now, parables don't always work that way. Parables aren't always allegorical like that, but this one clearly is. They understood what he's saying. And what did they do? They did exactly what the people in the parable did. We got to find a way to kill him, right? We can't let the son come here. We got to kill him. That's what they're doing. They looked for a way to get their hands on him. They were going to kill him. But they were afraid of the people. We can't do it now. We can't do it now because all the people are here, and he's a favorite with the people. They understood, okay, these guys were good politicians. They understood people and how people work. They weren't good religious leaders. They weren't good followers of God. They weren't great theologians, but they were good politicians. They understood what was going on in the community and how the people were looking at them. And they knew we can't do it now, but they were looking for a way to get Jesus. And there are several stories that we can look at in the Gospels where we see this decision. We've got to get Jesus. We got to do something about Jesus. We can't keep letting this go on. We're going to have to end this deal. And so it just keeps building. So here we are in Luke chapter 20. Okay, so we're getting near the time when they finally make their decision. Okay, it's go time, right? We've got to do it. It's got to happen now. We can't wait any longer. We can't pretend that somehow we're going to be able to do it some other time, or we've got a lot of time to go here. They're not doing that. They're like, we've got to go now. And I think as you see, this story falls in these questions that people have and all these other things that are going on. I'm just looking through the passage here. Then you get to Luke 22, okay, and they make their plot when you get to the Passover is coming, right? So we're in the last week here, and we've already had the entrance where Jesus has come in on Palm Sunday, right? That's earlier in chapter 19. Okay, then in chapter 20, so we're after that. So they know he's popular. They realize he's very popular. But we can't let this go on. We can't just let this continue to happen. We can't. We've got to do something about this. And it's building now. It's been there, but now it's starting to build this last week. And what we see is in these last few days, this momentum to figuring out a way to get Jesus in a place where we can take him and kill him, and figuring out a way to turn the people against him. How are we going to turn these crowds that love him, that are laying down palm branches, right? How are we going to turn them against him? We've got to figure that out too. They were good politicians, and so they're working it. They're working on it, but their intent here is clear. They knew that he told this, so they looked for a way to get their hands on him. They were looking for a way to get it done. Listen, when people have evil intent, they'll figure out a way to get it done. So those of us with good intent, we've got to figure out a way to get the good done. we've got to be just as intentional and just as purposeful as those who work against the gospel. Thanks for watching. I hope this has helped as you study and you see what's going on in the story here, and we kind of work our way through the Gospel of Luke. I appreciate you watching very much. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share it with somebody. Leave a comment, something to let us know how God's using this. Thanks. We'll see you next time.